Hello, everybody. For those of you who were here last year and remember the great iPad disaster, never again. This is, I think, the fourth time I have hosted this benefit dinner, so I want to apologize to all of you who've been here before for the lack of novelty. I don't like it either. I encourage you, when you fill out the donation envelopes at your table, if you have one, please insert a more interesting Chicago-based celebrity. There must be one. When I first hosted this event in 2019, I was delighted to help out this brand new institution, the first of its kind in the country, something I had never heard of, a museum devoted not to a particular kind of literature, a particular author, a particular culture, but just all of it, American writing, everywhere, of all kinds. I had no idea how such a museum would work. I expected you'd go up there and you'd see authors standing in display cases. Would an author agree to that? If it included meals and a regular smoke break, you might be surprised. But now, 6 years later, I'm here with you to celebrate a flourishing institution that's become one of the top destinations for visitors to Chicago, with over 100,000 visitors going through its doors since that first dinner 6 years ago. There have been, yes. In fact, this is true. I was on Michigan Avenue in front of the museum. There was somebody soliciting for some charity, and a woman said to him, "No, I'm sorry, all my money goes there." And she walked into the Writers' Museum. And either that was a devoted supporter of this institution or a very quick thinker. At any rate, there have been, over the years, 500 author visits with authors ranging from Sonia Sotomayor to Sandra Cisneros. Over 10,000 students from all over Chicago benefit from programs of the museum every year, visits to the museum, virtual classes. There's a biannual American Writers Festival happening. It packs in writers and readers for free events at the Harold Washington Library. And of course, there have been extraordinary exhibits at the museum, immigrant and refugee writers, and the upcoming American Prophets, Writers, Religion, and Culture. And of course, the institution of the Founders Award for Inspiring Writers. This year goes, of course, to the reigning master of historical, gripping nonfiction. That would be David Grann. And there he is. I would point out to David that last year's winner, Susan Orlean, was so impressed with this place that she joined the board. So tonight we are not meeting to launch some scrappy, innovative startup. We are here to celebrate a genuine, established institution that everybody here helped build. Do not get complacent, though. We will still need your money. We are meeting tonight in this beautiful place among these wonderful people at a rather fraught time. I don't need to tell you how bad it is as you fought your way here from the intersection of Delaware and Michigan. It's tough out there. And as for our political moment, I am sorry for bringing it up, but I kind of have to. To paraphrase Leon Trotsky, the museum may not be interested in politicians, but the politicians sure are interested in museums. There are people who say that this country is on the verge of a second civil war, and some of those people say that with disquieting enthusiasm for the idea. I don't know if it's true, but if it is, you have to ask, a civil war about what exactly? It seems unclear. I mean, at least the Civil War I, had an obvious cause. I mean, say what you will about the Confederates, at least they had an ethos. But I honestly think there is a genuine disagreement right now, a very serious one, and it's relevant to the work of this museum because it's a disagreement about an idea. It is, in fact, an idea I came up with. Back in 2012, I hosted a documentary on PBS called Constitution USA. It was about the U.S. Constitution. And in the making of that documentary, as I traveled all over the place and talked to interesting people, I kept asking myself this question, which is, why had the United States Constitution succeeded to that point when so many other democratic charters had failed? What was it that made America special? And it occurred to me that unlike every other nation on earth, Americans are not bound by a common national origin or a common culture or a common history, but instead by a shared creed, a belief, a civic religion, in democracy, in the rule of law, and in equality. I was so proud of myself for coming up with that. But it turns out I was not the first to think of that. Abraham Lincoln, heard of him? For example, once said, 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent. You heard this before? A new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. President Joe Biden himself said just in 2023, quote, "We're the only nation in the world built on an idea. We're all created equal. We haven't always lived up to it, but we've never walked away from it," unquote. So I felt a little less special. So President Biden may have spoken a little too soon. The very idea that we are a nation based on an idea is being attacked right now by the new leaders of our country. Vice President Vance argued against that idea explicitly when he accepted the nomination at last summer's RNC. More recently, Senator Eric Schmidt of Missouri, speaking at a celebration of something called national conservatism, said, and I quote, "America is not just an abstract proposition, but a nation and a people with its own distinct history and heritage and interests," unquote. And, quote, "It's our home. It's a heritage entrusted to us by our ancestors. It's a way of life that is ours and only ours," unquote. So, if the vice president and the senator are right, then this country essentially is just like any other in the sorry history of humanity, based on membership in a hereditary tribe, and tribes define themselves by excluding non-members. But if Lincoln and Biden and me are right, then anyone can be and could be and even should be an American. Okay, that's something worth fighting about. There's another factor, though. Tribal identity is fixed, right? I mean, to be a Jew like I am means one thing, to be a Catholic or an Irishman or a Chicagoan, those mean things, but the great advantage of an idea is that it can change. And our national idea has changed profoundly, and I would say for the better. Mostly what's changed is the definition of the first word in the US Constitution, we, as in we, the people, what it means, who it refers to. Now, the Writers' Museum, for whose benefit we are here, is a museum, of course, of ideas, and the creators of ideas, and the dissemination of ideas. Many, if not most of the American writers in the American Writers' Museum right now were not included in that first version of We the People when it was written down, but by insisting that they would be included, changed its meaning. They added to the idea of America. They elaborated on it. They explored it. They expanded it. I hear America singing. Walt Whitman wrote that in 1860. 66 years later, Langston Hughes wrote, I too sing America, and 100 years after that, more and more people are singing America, and their work and their stories and their ideas can be seen at the American Writers' Museum. And to support the museum, like we are doing tonight, is to support that ever-expanding chorus of Americans. One more very important thing. This museum was founded by an immigrant, Malcolm O'Hagan, our founder, who, like my ancestors, like my father, who's sitting right there, his father came to this country to seek his fortune, and once he found it, he decided to give back to this country. He conceived a museum based on his love for American literature, and he placed it in Chicago, a city where he still does not live. We'll fix that someday soon. Because he came to understand that our city may not be the richest or most glamorous, but it is profoundly central in every way to the experience and history of America. Chicago was never a colonial capital for any pre-American empire. Chicago rose with this country and won't ever fall unless it does. And Chicago is a city of immigrants like Malcolm. There are immigrants in this room, and immigrants serving and preparing our meal tonight, and immigrants who are looking after the children of many of you so you can be here tonight. The American Writers Museum is filled with the work of immigrants. It would not exist without them. America wouldn't exist without them. Without immigrants, where we are standing right now would still be a swampy fen, avoided by the indigenous peoples because of all the stinky onions and because, would you want to spend a winter here? So I would rather we Americans would not fight. I really would. But if we have to, I pick a side. I pick the side that America is an idea. And if you want to know what ideas, specifically, just go on down to the American Writers Museum. We have lots of them.